Hi guys. Um, so I just wanted to take a minute at the end of this video just to talk about my impressions of having swapped over from the 318 Streetmaster manifold to the SP2P. If you recall, my hopes were that the fact that the SP2P was a dual plane and it has slightly smaller, slightly longer runners. I was hoping for some more torque, and I was hoping for it down low to where you might have a little bit more control with an automatic transmission as to your access to that sweet spot in the torque. And in driving it around, I did have a little bit more torque, kind of all over the low RPM range. When I was taking it out just to test drive, when I was doing my adjustments, I actually, on just taking off from stop signs, not hard stomping it or anything, but there was one situation where I did break loose in the back end, but I could feel it more throughout. So that torque is there, and it's there lower. You're able to come into that sweet spot of really just feeling strong and good on the highway cruising on a long straightaway. You're able to come into that sooner. And when I say sooner, I'm talking somewhere between 200 and 300 RPM sooner. But that was enough to give me a little bit more control of how far in and out of that sweet spot I get with my driving. So to that, I would say that the swap was a success in that realm. However, my overall impressions of the SP2P, if you look around on the forums or any discussions about this manifold, they will tell you several times, usually from several different people, that this is not a performance manifold. I have to agree with that statement. Basically, and I don't know, but what I think is happening is just when you have a manifold with thank you, with just a higher flowing manifold, something that's going to flow more CFM, and especially if you have something with a larger plenum, just has more plenum volume in there than this, which is going to be practically everything, practically every manifold ever made for a 4-barrel. When you can feel yourself approaching that sweet spot and you dump in, you open up your secondaries and really give it a go. On a good high flow, high performance manifold, it's exciting. You open up those secondaries and horsepower builds. It gets quite steep, the power that you feel. You don't have that with an SP2P, at least, not to a degree that is exciting, and I think that's where the unpopularity, unpopularity, whatever. Anyway, I think that's where a lot of the hating on this manifold comes from. If there's one thing that the SP2P is not, it is not a fun driving manifold. Efficiency-wise, and like I said, there is more torque there, but without that horsepower to back it, I feel like it feels like practicality. Honestly, it feels like it drives like a practical truck, which is good to some degree, depending on what you're looking for. But I'll give you a perfect example. A few years back, Uncle Tony's garage. Uncle Tony built 318 with the SP2P, and I'm not sure what happened on the 318, but he ended up going to a 360 with a SP2P, and he had kind of the same things to say. The car just floats along. It does feel nice. It feels strong, and when you're in that sweet spot, it feels even stronger than it did on the manifold that I had prior. It really feels, you reach a point in RPM to where it feels like the car is doing no work. You're not even going up a hill, you're not dipping into the throttle, you're just leaving it, and it has enough torque to just do what it's going to do. It's good in that respect, but it's no fun. So, okay, just to, down to brass tacks, just to say it, if I had this to do again, I probably wouldn't do it. And I don't suggest doing it for most people who are thinking about it. And I'll tell you why. I had this SP2P sitting on a shelf for years. I never installed it because of all the negative reviews about it. I almost feel like the fact that I had the Streetmaster, which was the open plenum, I liked that. That was fine. And put this on, I like this. This is fine, but it's kind of all it is. It's fine. It's like the torque is there. You can feel the torque, but without dramatic horsepower, when you dig into it, it just feels empty. So I guess that's my point. Is for me, this was nothing. There wasn't a lot of cost involved. You know, swapping out the actual manifold, that's not a complicated procedure. Practically anyone who can turn a wrench can do it if they're willing to get all your surfaces clean and everything and just make sure everything's kosher. So it's not so much an effort thing, but I mean, if you're thinking about this and you're seeking one out and you're going to spend money on it, and then you're going to go through the trouble of swapping your intake, I just don't think you're going to be happy. And especially, I mean, this is a truck. It's a little, I guess my point is, it's a little unexciting to begin with. But if you have a car that's bitching, and you stick one of these in, or if you have a car that you're just really enjoying playing around with, and you stick one of these in, I really think you're going to pull it right back out. Reason being, it's no fun. The last thing you want to do is take a fun car and make it not fun. Because you make it not fun, and let's face it, if you didn't have the talent to change that back to something that was fun, you'd probably just sell the darn thing off. Classic cars that are not fun sit in driveways. This, I feel in my case, it's almost a happy mistake that it was a bit of an improvement over the other one, because I don't think it performs better. I think it just brings in that torque a little farther down to where if you have an automatic transmission like I have, now you can begin to play with it. Because what I was experiencing with my combo anyway is that the Streetmaster 318, there is a strong spot, but it's just kind of, it's not out of reach. It's just kind of in an area where you can't really play with it with an automatic transmission the way you could if you were driving a stick. You know, that's just my opinion. So ultimately, for people out there that are thinking about this, who don't have one of these sitting on their shelves or just taking up space, don't bother. It's there are pluses, but the pluses are small, and you know, you don't want to go through time, effort, and spending money on small fun. Yeah, I guess that's it. Nothing wrong with it, tell you the truth. I'm going to keep it in there, because like I said, I did have an improvement in the torque, and I do think I'm going to have an improvement in mileage. I have not tuned this thing yet. All I did really was do my initial setup. I did initial timing. I went in there, played with the mixture screws and the transfer slot until I got what I think felt where I needed to be, and I took it out for a cruise and see what I thought of it. That's all that's been done with it so far. So I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to play with it a little bit. Oh, and important note is that I've got this in there with a 650 Edelbrock AVS carburetor, and when you get into 650, that's when you start, you've kind of left the world of small primaries behind. You start getting into kind of standard size primaries. I do have somewhere around here, I've got a 500 CFM Carter, a bit of an older version, with considerably smaller primaries on it. I'm going to try that out at some point, just to see whether or not I feel a difference, because a lot of the talk on the forums and whatnot, the guys who really like this manifold, they tend to like it with a spread bore carb. Most of them talking almost exclusively about the thermoquad. So that may be something I'd look into, because the torque curve that's there, more torque is available down low. So if you got more torque available down low and you switch to something with small primaries to where you've got a real crisp throttle response, that, to my mind, you get into a thing of now it might become fun. I'm certain it would drive different, but you might be kind of back into that world where the low end has enough to play with, where it's still fun to drive, but then you dump in those big frickin' primaries on like the thermoquad, or I'm sorry, the big frickin' secondaries that it's got on the thermoquad, and I imagine it can be somewhat exciting. But if you've got just like kind of a standard carb like I've got, just picked up at AutoZone, it's honestly, it functions, and it functions well, but it's no fun. Anyway, that's my impression for anyone who is wondering about the benefits or lack thereof of the SP2P manifold.